Hey, beautiful people. So here we are on the 14th of January. I was listening to this beautiful story yesterday that really put a smile on my face about a small village in Wales. Now, despite the change in calendars in 1752, a move that was approved by Pope Gregory nearly 200 years earlier, the residents of a small village near Fishguard in Pembrokeshire resisted the change, and to this day they still celebrate the old calendar, still celebrate New Year's Eve on January the 13th. That really did make me smile. So it's like stepping out of time, creating time. It's like there's so much belief around time, right? This is what we're talking about. So here's a question for you, okay? What what if you didn't take the Christmas decorations down? Okay, what if you didn't take the Christmas decorations down? Now, some rules, okay, arrive dressed as fate, not to guide, but to threaten. They never say you must, not because they're true, but because disobedience often feels dangerous. Okay, we comply because going against it feels dangerous. It's pure uckery. In fact, it's sorcery. But what? But what if that belief isn't ancient? What if we pause and ask ourselves where it comes from? Who repeated it, and importantly, who profited from it? Because they whisper something will go wrong if you don't. You've got to take your decorations down by the 12th night. It'll be bad luck, or even could create disorder, or there'd be judgment from the neighbours next door looking at the fact you've still got your Christmas tree up. A vague, crawling sense of consequence, unnamed, unquestioned. These rules, outlive their meaning because they lodge into the body long after the story that birthed them has dissolved, rotted away. They bypass thought and they move straight into the nervous system. Oh my God, I best get those decorations down. Not knowing really why. Because your neighbour is tutting as they walk past. The thing is, you don't believe them. You feel those beliefs, right? So you may not believe them, but you feel those beliefs. You don't even think about it. You feel them, a tightening, a flinch, a sense that deviation will be punished in some form or some way. Even in an empty room, there you are sitting there with your Christmas tree still up. Oh my God, I should have got that down by now. Who says so, right? Who says so? Cultures learn this early. Instruction was weak, but fear endures. Fear lives on. Fear packs a punch. For a rule to survive, they knew that they needed to get it to sink beneath language and to become a sensation. This is how superstition outlives belief. Okay, how obedience persists without authority because it becomes self-governed, right? That's the thing, it becomes self-governed. How people stay long after their instinct has already left, like that, sitting there in a room by yourself just looking at the tree thinking, oh my God, I need to find some time to get you down. you know But here's the thing, historically, All right, historically, greenery and decoration stayed within the home and the dwelling long into early spring. I still have my holly wreath up on my door, and I've got a beautiful story around that I'm going to quickly weave in now. Is that on our Yuletide special and Messages from Beyond, beautiful group of people. Some of you listening to this would have come and joined us. We had I think it was 33, 35 of us in this beautiful circle, and we done some storytelling and we enchanted holly. Okay, many of you would have heard me talk about that. We enchanted some holly for everybody to take home, and what was really beautiful, there were people saying, could I take some home for my family, for my friends, for my sister? Really beautiful. So this enchanted holly went home, and I think, I won't ever forget that when I ceremonially cut that first piece of holly, as I took hold of it, I, with the intention of honouring it and gathering that, with a full heart, I felt these words. Sweep over me. Would you like to know how far this story goes back? And I remember just feeling this sense of cold, and then seeing this image of all these men carrying a large Yule log into a roundhouse, into a Celtic roundhouse, and there was this long log fire, and these ladies were sitting there and they were dressing the Yule log with evergreen. Then the image kind of shifted, and I could see the inside of the doorway of this beautiful roundhouse, and all these children were running around in a circle around the fire, playing as children have done since the beginning of time. And then suddenly I saw this image of the inside of the roundhouse, the threshold, the doorway, and these women, and looked to be their daughters, were dressing the inside of this roundhouse. And to think what that dryad, what that nature spirit said to me was, how would you like to know how far this story goes back? Incredible. And that really, we talk about things lodging inside of us, that really lodged inside of me. I won't ever forget it. And I knew that I was then being given permission, right? Because it was teaching me, it was showing me I was given permission to harvest this holly. And then I saw, as if time went forward, so it's all like time lapse, going back and then forward through time. I saw modern day people putting wreaths on doorways, and I knew what the teaching was. This watches over the threshold. Now, a really dear friend of mine, really dear friend of mine, she come over with her youngest, he's in his 20s, very tapped in, very much into the mod world. We are, him and his mum, and me, very much rooted in that world. And we were sitting chatting, and he felt a presence, and he said, there's a presence in the doorway. And that's not unusual for me to feel a presence in the doorway, right? So he could feel this presence in the doorway, and I sort of smiled and went, really? He went, yeah. He said, not that doorway, the front doorway. And I'm like, really? I could feel like the hair on my back of my neck stand up, and I have hair now, and the hair on the back of my neck stand up, and I was like, oh. And he said, yeah, the only way I can really explain it, it's like surveillance. It's like as if it's watching over. He said, it's like a security guard. And me and his mum just looked at each other and just went really cold, because she knew what I'd placed on the door, and she knew why, and the story around it. Because the whole thing about holly is it watches over. You think about that experience I had, where it said to me, the dryad said to me, would you like to know how far this story goes back? It's like mind blowing. He innocently, he's very tapped in, as his mum is, very innocently said to me, "Yeah, there's a presence by the door. It's like surveillance." It's like, what a word, surveillance. It's like watching over. It's like a security guard. It's like it's scanning people before they come in. It's like, what the fuck? You know, it shows you that these energies, this form of magic is absolutely real. It blew me away, right? So historically, greenery and decorations are staved within the home and the dwelling long into early spring. So I will keep my holly wreath all the way up until spring equinox, and then I will bless it and I will return it back to the land. The holly that is inside I will replenish in the next week or so. Again, return it to the land with gratitude and thanks, and then replenish it, because I have it on the table, so it's watching over the space. Have it on the table within a vase of water. So we have kept greenery within the home all the way into early spring. You know, midwinter calls for it. It calls for it to rest, to dream and become. Yet rest, become disruptive to productivity. Okay? So why are we being told to pull down our decorations at a certain time? Is it's a call to freaking action. We are being told, you know, enough rest now, because it's now becoming disruptive. It's becoming disruptive to what and to whom? Okay, to productivity. What if we again pause and ask where that comes from? Who repeated it and who profited from it? Okay, now, you know, it's not about like, you know, resisting, going back to what we you know, we have to do those things, but at the same time it's becoming very aware of the game that is being played against us, and the fact that we're being constantly pulled out of our rhythm. Okay, so, you know, if if you know, or the other way to put it is misrule, threatened order, right? January demands discipline. Okay, you know, warmth, gathering, stories, enchantment, withdrawn. Seasonal time ripped away, narrowed into clock time, and the spell was cast. Yet, that moment of recognition that you feel, you know, I will, you know, is I didn't bring a Yule tree back this year. I wanted to create a twig tree, like leaning into my Nordic roots and my Irish roots, going back. The holly, a a trig, a twig, a twig tree. That's a tongue twister. That is a twig tree. Really, really, really beautiful, simple, something very different. But you know, I will keep that nurtured until spring equinox. Okay, um, you know, so that moment of recognition that you just see what is going on, that subtle oh wow in the body, is where the spell breaks. Not with force, not with drama, with humour, because like, oh my god, you can see it, and with awareness. And that recognition can be really quiet, but it's how the spell breaks and how spells are broken. And we reclaim what has always been ours. You know, we reclaim what has always been ours. For this, really, right, when you think about it, was never about decorations. You know, as many of you know, I don't really celebrate Christmas. Well, I don't. I celebrate winter solstice, and then come Christmas, I rest, dream, and become. Um, you know, it was never about decorations. It was never about bad luck or doing the right thing. It was about creating fear around disobedience, which then hardened and calcified into superstition. And I'll say it again, recognition can be quiet, but it's how the spells are broken. And we reclaim what has always been ours: fire, rest, and dreams. So, as those days lengthen now, as the land begins to warm, remember we're still in winter. So maybe it's about, we still have to do those things that we need to do, but maybe it's about just becoming mindful that we are still in winter, and to give ourselves permission to rest, to dream, to become, to still sit in candlelight. Still sit in candlelight, still hold that quality, that magic that this time of the year has. I know that me having that awareness and that kind of experience around the 31st as well, what I really have deeply recognized within myself is that because that experience happened in that way, I didn't have this kind of clunky stop, end and beginning. It just feels like a continuation of winter, and that somatically within my nervous system has been really nourishing. It's been really profound. And again, it's not about going out. There is several invites on the table there for me, some of them being uptown in the old mod world as well, and it's like, next year I probably will go and do that. But at the same time, it's not about cancelling those plans. It's about just becoming aware. That's a night out. It's a magical, beautiful, incredible, fantastic night out of spinning vinyl, and in some jazz cellar bar. Fantastic. But it's just becoming aware of the game that is being played against us. So, within that recognition, and sometimes that can be quiet, sometimes it's really loud as well, but it's where the spells are broken, and we reclaim what has always been ours at this time, which is fire, candlelight, rest, dreams, stories, dreaming, resting, and becoming. As always, sending you all so much love. Until next time, keep shining.